Hi, and welcome to another episode with us here. We're coming to you a little different time today, reaching out to some of our fellow audio community and the comms community over in Asia, Europe, and obviously here in the US too this morning. So we're kind of trying to span across all our time zones today. Good morning, Mac. Good morning, Pete.
Morning.
And we're on to a new week, and we're gonna start this week with Freespeak II best practices. Joining us today is Ram and Sook-Fung from the Singapore office. We're finding such a interest in comms technology as we've started this whole project. It's amazing the feedback we've been getting from the field on that. And speaking of feedback in a good way, as an audio guy, it's always hard to use that terminology, but we love hearing from the folks that are connected in. We're just giving everybody just a little more time to make their connections. But as you do, you'll notice handouts are available in your control panel. Ram has a number of handouts available for everyone to facilitate future knowledge and reference. Pete, why don't you kind of talk us through how the Q&A works on this and encourage everyone to participate?
Well, if you're watching this live, you get to ask questions live, which is something you don't get to do with a video. Although when the video is posted, which we do about 24 hours after the end of the show, there is a comments section. Now, I'm not saying we'll go and answer questions in the comments, but we might. You never know. On your screen, you'll see a section called Handouts, which has 5 different things in it, which have to do different docs from ClearCom, and then right below that is a section called Questions. So go ahead and ask your questions in there, and it can be any question, even if you're having trouble with the webinar or something like that. But I will be forwarding only the questions that have to do with actual ClearCom issues to Ram and Sook. So I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Pete and Mac and Kelly. Sook-Fung and I are application engineers at ClearCom, and both of us have been you for a long part of our careers. We started out being actual real crew pukes and working where the rubber meets the road, like you all do. So we kind of bring that perspective. You know, a couple of people asked me, well, you know, I don't want to buy anything. Well, this is not a sales thing. This is a tech forum, so just we're all cool with that. All right, so as I'm going to assume that most of the people watching now have used the Freespeak II system or are familiar with it, and we will start out with some basic stuff, but we highly encourage that you use the question application to chime in and let us know what direction you want to pull us. Are we dumbing it down? Are we going over your heads? All that kind of stuff. That would be very helpful for us. All right, so I'm going to still learning how to use my screen here, but here we go. So we're going to talk about Freespeak II, and we have our version here of the present version is 1.5, and a couple of terms that we want to chat about first that are a little bit different than some of the standard stuff used. When we say key set, that is the screen that you see on the top of the belt pack or on the front panel. And that,
are you trying to share something now, Ron? We're not seeing it.
Are you not seeing it? Okay, let's see why that's happening. Sorry about this. I'm more used to doing this face to face, everybody. How about you see it now? Yes? Hopefully you do. Okay.
Not yet, not
Not
yet.
yet.
Not yet.
It
You have to
says, how about,
besides selecting it, you have to click on the show play key.
I clicked on that, and now I'm clicking on my lack of self-confidence, and I'm clicking on the, don't see it, huh? I'm playing, I click on the show play key. It says no one can see your screen. Click to start sharing. I've clicked many times. Kelly, you want to
You know what I think I'll do? Stand by. I'm gonna send you over. We'll just reset your presenter panel just for a second. Thanks everybody for your patience here. We're just going to do a couple things. Why don't Ram, why don't you go ahead and kind of set us up with the just some background here on Freespeak, and while I'm trying to make you, we'll
Sure.
see if this works a little better, but I just made you presenter again, so.
Okay, I'm going to show my screen. I'm going to hit the play button, and I will any better?
No.
Remember
Not
to
yet.
select what you're showing in the drop-down menu below the play.
I did. I've done that a few times.
Hmm.
Well, I'm just going to talk about this for now, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe one of you can take over presenting, and you can show the screen. Okay. Are those lights too bright in the background there?
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Hang on one
This
second.
is live TV, folks. We're
TV.
the
Okay. We're, like all of us have seen,
there you go.
things are being done from home where I am not the only person here.
Hey, these are the new world we're living in right now, folks. So thanks for your patience, and we're gonna make the best of it, right?
Yeah. So just to go over, Freespeak, of course, is it's a duplex multi-channel belt pack system that easily connects with any product that's out there, 4-wire or 2-wire. And I'm assuming everybody out there knows the difference between 4-wire and 2-wire. And if not, chime in, we'll talk about it. Now, we set these things up with what we call roles. A role is a little bucket into which we can program something. So if I set up a role, let's say for an A2's belt pack, that role will be used and assigned to a belt pack, and I can change the programming at any time to change what the belt pack reflects. So if, let's say, I have production over audio and maybe a point-to-point to another belt pack on my belt pack, I've programmed it that way. But somebody else might have another role. Now, roles are a little bit different in different products. So in the Freespeak II product line, one role goes to one endpoint, or endpoint being, any device other than the base station, in this case, a belt pack. So that that endpoint can only get a role, and that role, once taken, is not available to any other belt pack. Okay. There's going to be coffee grinding. Sorry. It's early morning here in California, and my wife is stirring, and she needs her caffeine fix, so I hope you'll tolerate that. There you go. That's what our coffee grinder sounds like here in Albany, California. In other products like HelixNet, you can actually assign a role to multiple endpoints. So for example, a follow spot operator role can go to all the follow spots. Now, let's see if I can get this thing up. Not quite there yet. Okay, still working on it. Webinar is being recorded. Yes, these webinars are being recorded. I'm getting a question from Mr. Adal. There is PowerPoints. Will they be available?
So I've got it up from my screen, Rom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this is
Perfect.
the world syllabus that we've handed out to everybody in their handouts. And if you, Rom, have want us to pull up the PowerPoint or anything, we can also go to that if that helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's Ernie Addo asked if there would be PowerPoints available and if it would be recorded. Yes, it will be recorded, and not only this webinar, but other webinars, and not only the ClearCom ones, but there are a lot of product webinars that are out there on this website. So that's www.practicalshow.tech, and that will get you to, by the way, Wednesday, we're going to have one on HelixNet, LQ, and Agent IC, and we hope you come to that. Okay, and again, apologies for all the technical difficulties. There we go. Can we just show the back? Yeah, right there. Okay. So right now we're looking at the back of the HelixNet, I'm sorry, the Freespeak II base station. And maybe you can make that a little bit bigger. Can you scroll into that?
No.
You cannot. Okay.
That's full. It's filled
Okay.
the whole screen, Rom.
I got you. I got you. What I'll do. I see what I'm doing. I have the videos too large. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's on the back plane. Let's always go to the back before we go to the front. So right there, where you see the lovely arrow, that's our IEC connector. And by the way, just above it, that little barcode is the serial number. And also on that serial number, there's a MDNS identifier that we'll talk about a little bit later. It also would be available in the menu. So that's a standard cable connection, electrical connection. Just to the right of it, you'll see there's a 12-volt DC mini DIN connector, and the base station ships with a AC to DC brick that you can connect in, and that brick also has an electrical connector on it, or you can connect directly to a 12-volt source. Now, couldn't make this up. There was a reality TV show called Biker Nuns, and it was exactly what we thought it is a bunch of nuns on Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and they fitted into their helmets headsets so they could hear and they could talk. And they had windshields in front of it, which was very helpful, of course, like triple muff windscreens. They followed this group of nuns around in a Winnebago, and on the dashboard, they had placed the Freespeak II base and were powering it with that 12-volt connection. So the miracles of modern electricity. Excuse me. Just to the right of that, you'll see there's a sort of a little quad of 2 SFP cages and 2 RJ45 connectors. They are for transceiver ports, and you see the top one says antenna 1 and the bottom one says antenna 2. So you can connect to a transceiver either by using the RJ45 copper, or you can put an SFP into that SFP cage and take your little, typically we use LC connectors for the fiber, and go to a transceiver or a splitter. And we'll talk a little bit about that kind of connectivity later on. It's actually pretty useful in certain applications. You can either be on the fiber or the copper, but each one is separately controllable, but you can only be on one or the other. They don't work simultaneously. So let's say I'm connecting copper from the antenna 1 transceiver port, and I'm connecting with fiber to the Transceiver 2 connector port. That can certainly work. Just to the right of that is something unique to the Clearcom products. No, it's not necessarily unique to Clearcom products, but it's unique to comms products. It's a DECT sync, and that DECT sync is useful if I have more than one base station in an RF space. Now, just for an application note, I was doing the Rugby World Cup about a year or two ago here in San Francisco, and it was the sevens, and I was doing the world feed, and we had a Freespeak base station with about 8 belt packs, and everything was working fine. And then on show day, the Ross video truck showed up, and they also had a Freespeak base station that they brought down to the field for their sports desk. They had also not too many belt packs, but we wanted to make sure that our deck stacks were not colliding. So what we did is I took the sync out of their base station and ran a Cat5 cable about 300 or 400 feet up to our booth where we had our base station. And what that does is it coordinates the two base stations so you don't have collisions in the deck stack. Now, what I mean by that is deck technology or the frequency hopping, which is used in the 2.4, as the signal between the belt pack and the transceiver hops around a lot, and so it hops around and does it's moving. It's a moving target, and when you pair a belt pack to a base station, you're teaching the belt pack the algorithm that the base station will be hopping around on. Now, occasionally, even though they're different hopping patterns, occasionally they may both end up in the same slot at the same time. So in the world of 2.4 gigahertz, in the United States, we only have a 10 megabit bandwidth, so a 10 megacycle bandwidth. So we can only have 25 belt packs in one RF space in the 1.9. And where most of our viewers are today, which is outside of the US, that is going to double because they have twice as much. Thank you very much, Debbie, the lovely Debbie, bringing me coffee. Thank you. So in the United States, we have a little bit more limited bandwidth, so we are very mindful of the fact that we want to coordinate any base stations one to another. Unfortunately, if you're connecting to a Bolero or a Romeo that's also using the 1.9, those products, as far as I know, do not have the ability to have that deck sync. Peter, you want to correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think this is the only one that doesn't. Now, just to the right of that,
Yeah,
you'll see
there's no syncing available in anybody else's deck system.
Okay, all right, as I thought. So just to the right of the deck sync RJ45 block are 4 XLR, female XLR connectors, and those are for 2-wire connection to a hardwire base. So any hardwire 2-wire audio, whether it's Clearcom 2-wire or RTS 2-wire. Now, there are 4 RJ45s there. I'm sorry, 4 XLR connectors there, and they're set up on the printed circuit board in pairs. So we have, everything is backwards on my screen, sorry about that. So we have A and B, well, I should say A and B, and then C and D. Okay, so they're set up as pairs. Now, let me give you a use case here. Let's say my house that I'm connecting to, their system is a Clearcom system, but there may be a TV truck outside, OB van, that has maybe an RTS system. So I can make my first two ports, A and B. In the software, I can set it to be ClearComm protocol, and C and D I can connect to be RTS protocol. Now, in the ClearComm world, typically you only have one channel per XLR, one wet 2-wire ClearComm channel per XLR. There is a scheme in which you can make it where we can put two channels on there, but it's not the native scheme. So I would have my A channel and my B channel for my ClearComm, two ClearComm channels. If I set C and D to be RTS, now both C and D will be mirrored as the same. And what that means is pin 2 and 3 on an XLR 3 pin for RTS carry the two channels of 2-wire audio. In the ClearComm world, pin 3 carries the plus for the 2-wire audio. But because the RTS system is able to utilize two channels on one XLR, when you designate the C and D block to be RTS, both of those XLRs will be identical. They'll both have the two channels that you've brought over from your SAP channel. So that's just very important to know. And again, when we start talking about the GUI, they'll be a little bit more evident. Just to the right
Ron,
of yes.
Ron, before we get too far away from them, we have two questions about the sync. One from John Christie: do you need a crossover cable for the DEC sync cable master to slave?
No, you do not. You do not. A standard pin to pin Cat5 RJ to RJ is all you need. Nothing,
and then
nothing fancy.
The corollary from Brian Hancock is to sync an IP-based protocol and extendable via media converters, etc., or something else.
Okay, great question, Brian. And the answer is no, it's a proprietary connection. And somebody asked me in the last time we did this, how far can you run it? I don't know the exact answer to that, but I'm assuming it's going to, I always follow the 422 data rule of about 1,000 feet, maybe 300 meters. It's in the manual and I should have looked it up, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. But it is not a networkable protocol. So that just like the transceivers are not networkable on this product. As a matter of fact, if anybody is interested, I can show you. Give me a second here to look at what I did. Somewhere in here, I thought I had it. Well, the decked pin out. I'm sorry, the pin out for the antenna transceiver, as you see here, pin 1 and 2. That would be the orange.
Now, we're not sharing your screen, remember? So.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
You want to try sharing your screen again to see if it's fixed now?
Yeah, let's see if we fix it.
Let me switch it over to you. I'm going to switch it over to you here. Okay. Hold on, stand by.
Okay.
You have now been made a presenter.
Oh, I am a presenter. Look at this. Okay, show my screen. And oh, I got the right button this time. That's good. Show my screen. And I'm going to drop down the menu to this Word file, which shows this transceiver. So this is the pinout. Everybody see that? This is the
now we got it
for the Cat5 cable for the transceiver wiring. So we use E1 protocol packets to be able to connect. This gives us 32 duplex, E1 gives us 32 duplex channels. So now I can take pins 1 and 2, that's plus and minus for transceiver, at pins 4, that's the orange pair. The blue pair, pin 4 and 5, would be your receive plus and minus. And the decked sync, which is kind of like the conductor, which keeps all the transceivers synchronized so that they can hand off properly. That's on pin 3 and 6, the green pair. And the brown pair is giving our power to the transceivers and or splitters.
So
So
Ram, also
yes.
on the Best Audio website is a paper from Kari detailing this same pinout
Right.
and detailing how you can use 422 media converters and E1 media converters in a very kludgy box
Yeah.
to get this to go to fiber. It is possible, but it takes a lot of work. So that information is available if you want to look it up.
Yeah. So the issue with that is that unfortunately, do you see my screen now, by the way?
No, it went away because you selected something else.
Yeah, every time I click that button to show it, I don't know. Unfortunately, I think you're going to have to take it back. I apologize.
No, just select. Don't click the button to show. Just select what you want to show below it.
I've done that, and I'm seeing it on my screen, but I don't think you're seeing it on yours. No, you don't see that Freespeak front and back panel.
Click on Stop Showing.
Okay.
Now click on Show.
Yeah, the stop never lights up, and something's broken here. I'm just wondering if I should.
Do we have your file? We have your file?
You do. It's the Freespeak II base station version 1.5 PowerPoint. I think everybody has a file. It should be in the shared files thing.
Well, I've got another question here.
Okay.
If Kelly can bring that up, can find that.
Yeah,
I don't see
I'll
it.
work on that right now for you, Pete.
Okay, I don't see that question. Apologies, everybody. You know, we're all struggling to use this new technology that's not so new. Here's a question. Can we link a unit using channel A on 2-wire port and share the same RJ45 port? Okay, share it on the same. Okay, well, obviously a 2-wire is an XLR and an RJ. So absolutely you can. I don't see who asked that question, but that's okay. Whoever did, it's a good question. Let's say, it's Abdul. Okay, Abdul Hadi asked, can we link a unit using channel A on 2-wire port and share the same on RJ45 port? Yes, you can. And here's a use case. Let's say I am working with my system that I've brought in, and I connect to the house or arena or stadium system on 2-wire. Okay, and they come in XLR, and I've linked that channel A 2-wire to let's say to the production channel on my Freespeak II base station. Now, a television truck pulls up, an OB van pulls up, and I want to connect to them, and they are using a matrix. It's a matrix, and they want to bring some 4-wire connection from their matrix to my. Hopefully, you're seeing the front and the back of the base now. They want to bring that into my system. So I connect that to the 4-wire port. Let's say 4-wire port number 1 on the back there. Okay. So I've used my A to the house, my XLR A, and my 4-wire port 1 to the OB van. All right. Now, in my software, I'll connect the A. I'll take that and associate it with my production channel. And I'll take the 4-wire port and also associate that to the production channel. Now, the house intercom can talk to me and talk to the truck and vice versa. So we've made one big happy party line out of that. Abdul, I hope that answers your question. Okay, so obviously now we've just started talking about these 4 RJ45s in this quad here. Now, the ClearCom pinout that we use, oh, I lost my ability to share here. Oh, there we go. Now you're doing it. Okay.
Ram, I'm sharing.
Okay, were you not seeing my screen?
No, we are not. We can't make that work. So I'm going to just have to play your PowerPoint from here.
Okay, so scroll down. Scroll down to.
Do you know what page you want me to go to?
The second page.
Okay.
Okay. All right, if you just scroll down past that, one more. There you go. Okay. So, as I was just describing, we were using the A port, the XLR A port to connect to the house, and we were using the RJ45 quad over there just to the right of those 4 XLRs. We were using RJ45 4-wire connector number 1 to connect to the OB van, the TV truck. And what we did is we associated both the A port and the RJ45-1 4-wire port with the production party line. And we did that all in the software, or you can do it from the front panel. It's all easily done. Now, what we've accomplished there is we've made one big party line, and it's very useful. That way, I've acted almost like a matrix would to be able to connect all these systems. All right, just to the right of that 4-wire quad, there's the program audio input, which everybody should be pretty familiar with. So that allows me to bring a program audio source into the system. By the way, if I'm not using my 4-wire ports to connect to and from another hardwired system, I could also use those 4 ports to bring 4 more program audio sources in. Or if I wanted to, I could also come out of those with, let's say, extra stage announce outputs to, let's say, PA zones. All right, and speaking of stage announce, just to the right of the program audio, female XLR is a 3-pin male XLR, which is our SA out, stage announce out, or some people call it voice of God. So on the front panel, just to the right of those 4 key sets, we see a little top button says SA, stage announce. And so the operator that might be using that base station as a headset station can push that button, and their headset mic would then be routed out of that stage announce port. Very useful, let's say, for maybe during rehearsal. You can have a throwdown audio biscuit sitting on the stage where you can make announcements. So people, let's say you have a choreographer working with some dancers and you want to make an announcement to them, you can push that button. Or you can bring it into the PA system, and it can be used also by the belt packs can access that stage announce. So let's say a stage manager could make announcements right from their comms headset instead of running around looking for a wireless mic to talk into the PA. In that regard, it's very useful.
One other thing about the program and the SA inputs, if you take both of those and assign them to a party line in assignments, they automatically become a 5th 4-wire input to the panel.
Very good point. Very good point. Yeah. Also, what some people do sometimes is they'll take the stage announce out, program in, and use those on the far right. You see a DB15, that's a GPIO, and they use that in conjunction with those 2 XLRs, and they use the GPIO to trigger a radio. So that's yet another application you can use for a 2-way radio, maybe for your security people or your maybe your production assistants are running around on 2-way radios. The picture went away. Anyway, just between the stage announce and that, oh, there we are. Just between the stage announce and the DB15, you'll see there's a LAN 1 and a LAN 2 port. Those 2 Ethercon connectors have RJ45 connections so that you can connect your base station to your computer or into a network so that you can control the software. Now, keep in mind the software now, as opposed to the original Freespeak base, now the software actually lives on the printed circuit board. And as we update to different versions of firmware, we will be updating the software at the same time. So for those of you who have made the upgrade that we've brought out about a year ago, you all noticed a tremendous leap in the utility of the GUI of the software. And so that lives there. What you would do is you could plug into your PC or you can plug into your network that's connected there. And as long as your PC or your Mac are on the same subnet in your NIC as the base station subnet, you can then, or you could do DHCP or link local. You type in the IP address that you've assigned to the base station, and the GUI will magically appear. We'll get into the GUI in just a little bit. Now, again, that DB15 on the right-hand side is going to give us, and the pinouts are in the manuals, where all our manuals, by the way, and a lot of the stuff I'm talking about today, besides being available here, is available on our website, the support drop-down menu in the ClearCom website. And while I'm shilling for the website, I do want to mention that our website has a fantastic utility. We call it Solution Finder. And you can type in any question you like, you know, within reason, of course, and you'll get a myriad of very, very interesting answers from people all around the world for different applications. Let's say you want to connect your Freespeak base to a Riedel artist. And so the pinout you would find there, how to make an adapter if you need to for 4-wire. Or you want to know how to connect to a CCU of a certain brand, or you want to understand what a trouble message might be in a log. All those things are available at the Solution Finder. So you go to www.clearcom.com and you download, well, you upload your question and you'll get some really good answers, and highly recommend looking at that space. I see there's a question from Manish, and the question is, can I use 25 1.9 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz belt packs on a single system? Absolutely, Manish. So here's the thing, and I guess I should have backtracked to that a while ago. The transceivers and the belt packs are either in the 1.9 gigahertz or the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, area of the spectrum. Coming out of that transceiver port on the back of the base station are 3 signals, as we saw in the pinout. There is the E1 packets of duplex audio. That's audio, okay? There is the DECT sync, which is the thing that will synchronize the transceivers, so handoffs from one transceiver to another are seamless. And there's power. There's power to juice up the transceivers. And that, by the way, that power can go about 250, 300 meters, something like that. After that, the E1 and the DECT sync are certainly fine, but you really want to locally power the transceiver or the splitter once you go past 250 meters or so. Obviously, the quality of the cable is going to make a big difference here. Also, the cable run, if the cable is like in a cable tray in a facility and there's a big coil of triax cable that has voltage in it, sitting on top of it, that's going to make the signal not, the power for the signal not be able to propagate as far. Okay, getting back to Manish's question. You can certainly co-locate 2.4 transceivers and belt packs on the same base station as 1.9. So for example, if here we see several antennas with antenna zones. Now keep in mind, there are 3 circles there. We're not quite the Olympics here. So 3 circles. And in the middle of each circle, you see there's a transceiver. The radius under ideal conditions should be, I don't know, I know it in feet, I don't know it in meters, but it should be 700 or 800 feet in ideal conditions from that transceiver. Obviously, ideal conditions rarely exist. The architecture of your building is obviously going to affect the propagation of the signals. However, we see there are 3 transceivers there, keeping in mind that each 1.9 transceiver can support 5 belt packs, and each 2.4 transceiver can connect 4 belt packs. Let's imagine that the first 2 transceivers that we see, kind of the middle one and the left-hand one, are 1.9 gigahertz transceivers. So in those 2 circles, I could definitely have up to 10 belt packs easily. Now, let's say that right-hand transceiver is a 2.4. So that one will support 4 belt packs. But they're both connected to the same base station, either through a splitter or to the, well, we can only have 2 connected to the transceiver if we don't have a splitter. But let's just say we have a splitter, a 5-way splitter. So there you see the splitter is off on the middle and the right-hand side. You can imagine, let's say in this diagram, on the splitter that's on the bottom there that Peter is now pointing to, okay, that one there, let's say I have 2 1.9 transceivers and 1 2.4, and the one just above it might be 2 2.4 transceivers and 1 1.9. But absolutely, we can co-locate 2.4 transceiver / belt packs with 1.9 transceiver / belt packs. Here's the mantra. The transceiver port coming out of the base station is frequency agnostic. There's no RF coming out of there. So it doesn't care whether it's 2.4 or 1.9. When you plug it into a transceiver, the transceiver dictates what frequency bandwidth the transmission will be in. Okay, good. All right, well, let's go back, if we can scroll up, also to the picture we were looking at so we can see the front panel just for a moment. There we go. So the front panel, obviously we see the 4 key sets. It's a Freespeak II base station. Let's talk a little bit about the rack ears for just a moment. The rack ears are separate from the actual front plate of the base station. The reason we do this, it's a manufacturing little helper for you, is, you know, gravity is not just a good idea, it's the law. And we've all, there are 2 kinds of technicians, those who've dropped a base station and those who will drop a base station, okay? So, you know, it's just the way it is. Sometimes things fumble out of your hands. If you would drop a base station with one continual faceplate that included the rack ears, very often the rack ears bend or will break, and then you have to replace the whole faceplate. So what we've done is we've made the rack ears removable, so if, God forbid, you drop the base station and the rack ear breaks, you don't have to replace the whole front panel, you just replace the rack ear. And we've given you little tabs on those rack ears so that when you're trying to pull it out of a rack and the thing just above and below it are kind of pushing up against it and making it tight, it makes it easier to pull out. You know, and heretofore what we had to do is take a headset connector, plug it into the headset, and use that to pull the base station out of a rack. Now our engineers have given us these little tabs which make it much easier. just to the right of that left-hand tab, if we could go back to that picture. Thank you, sir. Just to the right of that tab, you'll see there's a USB connector. That USB connector is very useful for saving or restoring files into the base station. So let's say I've done a show, a dance show, and then tomorrow I'm going to do a concert. But a week from now, I'm going to go back and do a dance show. I can save my configuration from one show and then blow it back in using the USB stick and not even have to connect to my computer. It's actually pretty convenient for those who don't necessarily want to connect to their PC. Also, I can upgrade firmware. You can download the latest firmware onto a USB stick, leave it in the root directory. It's a .gz file. The .gz is a form of a kind of a zipped file, and you stick the USB stick in there and you can go to the menu and upgrade it right through the stick. It's very convenient and easy to use. Just to the right of that USB connector, you'll notice that there is in this case, a 4-pin XLR male. That's for a headset. Now, we do make base stations that have 5-pin females or even 7-pin connectors. That's usually used more in a military application. But that's your headset connector. So this base station is not only a base station, it's also a headset station. We did not have the real estate for a gooseneck mic and speaker, so it's not like an actual, like a base station that you can use without being connected with a headset, but it's still very convenient. The 4 windows that you see allow us to use 4 of the 12 channels, or if I wanted to, I could also put point-to-point to belt pack rolls or reply keys and all that. We'll see that when we go into the software. Just to the right of the headset connector, we see that there are 3 little buttons there. The bottom one is the menu button. That's how you get into the menu. It's a cascading menu. The top one is a headset button, mic on off. And the middle one there it's called mode. What that does, when you press that, it gives you great diagnostics in the window. Again, they're cascading, so you can select all kinds and drill down all kinds of metrics on what's going on with the system, not only the base station, but everything that's attached to it. Okay, then we have four key sets. There are 2 keys on the bottom of each OLED screen. The left one is a call signal to initiate a call to whatever party line or role is in that window. And the right one is your talk button. And they can be latchable, or you can turn the latchability off if you like. And just to the right of the screen, there's a knob with a LED in the middle. If you tap the knob in, it will latch the listen for that key set. Okay, off to the right. Again, we talked about this earlier. The 3 buttons on the right side of the screen, just to the right of the 4th OLED. The top one is a stage announce. The middle one is an all call, and that's configurable in the software or from the front panel, so that when you push that button, it will either talk and open your headset mic to all 4 of the channels or endpoints that are selected on those 4 windows, or you can switch it so that it will talk to every channel and every endpoint. And that's all programmable. And just below it is a button called RMK, that stands for Remote Mic Kill. Remote Mic Kill is also programmable, so that when you push that button, it will select the remote mic kill to just what's right there in front of you in the windows or the whole system. You can also point it to be able to to disconnect talks from any 2-wire system that's connected to it. It will not send any signal to the 4-wire connections because they don't have that capability. Okay, off to the right, we have a couple of knobs. The main volume knob and the program audio knob. Both of those also have the LEDs in the middle, and when you push the rotary encoder in, that will light up, and that means that yes, you're listening. So if you don't want to listen to those 4 channels for a minute, you can tap that and be able to mute the listen. Now, just to the left of that are a couple of status LEDs that tell us whether transceivers are connected and what the health of the system is. To the right of the main is the program audio. So anything that I've plugged into my program audio XLR connector in the back, that will allow me to hear that on my headset as I turn that up and down. Now, as far as the belt packs are concerned, the belt packs can also hear that program audio. You can associate it with a channel, or you can just have it as program audio there. So that pretty much covers our front panel. Keeping in mind, again, just to review, there are four wires, 4 2 wires. You can co-locate 1.9, and you can and 2.4. I see there's a question.
Question, Ron.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a Matt Rogers wants to know,
Yep.
why would you use 1.9 over 2.4 and vice versa?
Okay, it's a great question, Matt, and there are a couple of different answers to it. And I'll get to your question in a second here, Pete. That's a great question. But as far as Matt's question of picking 1.9 over 2.4, there are several answers to that. First of all, there are places in the world, and our friends over in China know all about this, where 1.9 is not legal. Now, some people use it, but they're, kind of scufflaws there. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer. If it's not legal, we don't like to sell it to you, okay? That's first of all. Second of all, not all 1.9 are created equal. Different countries or regions have different deck stacks that allow us to occupy different pieces of the spectrum. So in the United States, we use 1.92 gigahertz to 1.93 gigahertz. That's our little 10 megahertz swath that we're allocated to use. In the UK, for example, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 1880 to 2.0. Right. So that's twice the bandwidth, which is why on our larger matrix systems, you can have twice as many belt packs in a space like that. These base stations are limited, no matter whether it's 1.9 or 2.4, to 25 belt packs on a base station. That's a limitation that's built into the base station. The fact of the matter is, the laws of physics only allow, in the United States, you to have 25 1.9 belt packs. So you're not really losing anything by that. However, in the rest of the world, that's why some people want to have 2 bases next to each other. So that in that case, you would deck sync the 2 of them. Now,
that's 25 in the standalone base.
In the standalone base,
right? If you have a helix net system, you can do 50.
Matrix
in the 1.9 matrix, right? I mean, the Eclipse, right?
Yeah, Eclipse, right. Now, further answering Matt's question. So, yes, so different RF environments present different challenges. So there are many arenas. I'm speaking from my experience in the United States, and I'm going to let Sook-Fung chime in here in a second about what she's seen in her market, which is the APAC market and the EMEA market. But in the United States, we have some arenas that have like metal domes, or I've seen this in certain convention centers that are very RF unfriendly, where multipath is an issue. Sometimes the 2.4 being a faster, shorter wavelength has an easier time in the harsher environments. Now, ClearCom will be coming out shortly, within the next couple of months or so, with another bandwidth occupant, which is the 5 gigahertz. It won't work with the base station, but it will work with the matrix systems. And that actually likes multipath, this because it's such a short wavelength. It thrives on the reflections. So that's something to look for in the future. And matter of fact, the folks at practicalshow.tech have posted a webinar that the ClearCom people did on this new technology that'll be coming out. And I think you should all take a look at it because it's going to be coming our way. Just like 211030 is going to be occupying our life shortly, so will this. So it might be smart to take a look at it while we all have some time on our hands. So those are the, Matt, those are the sort of considerations that you have to bring into this. Obviously, we'll be talking a little bit about multipath issues coming up, but in certain applications, there's so much 2.4 from Wi-Fi that it's hard to get the 2.4 to play nicely. Our 2.4 system uses kind of a look ahead. So as it hops, it's always looking to which Wi-Fi channels are occupied in that space, and then tries to avoid them. So it has a little user bit that tells the belt pack skip the next hop because there's somebody occupying that. And those things are fluid. So sometimes when you're in a place that has a lot of Wi-Fi traffic where they're using all the channels and they turn it up to 11 for the Wi-Fi, and you are using 2.4, you might find it challenging to get connections, but certainly doable. However,
Ram, let me just relate my experience using it in New York. And first of all, if you can use one standalone base with 25 1/9s and a second standalone base with 25 2.4s, if you want to increase the number of your belt packs in standalone.
Right.
And it's a position that we have for years used, for at least 2 years, used on the Macy's Day Parade on 34th Street, where there are literally hundreds of access points visible, and never had a real problem with it. And I think part of that is we're sort of out in the open, and it can work well. I think if you were in a stadium with lots of access points, you'd have a problem.
Yeah,
now,
in
I did
arenas
have
especially.
Exactly. Now, I did have a service call at a brand new theater where their 1/9 system worked everywhere except on the stage. And I went in there and looked at their system, and I went up to the catwalk which is right over the stage, and the catwalk ran straight across the middle of the stage. It was 3 feet wide, and on one side of the catwalk, they had placed 2 of the Freespeak 1/9 antennas, and on the other side of the catwalk were 2 Wi-Fi access points at 2.4. Now, these 2.4 access points were swamping the RF signal in the 1/9, even though it's a totally different band, and making them not work. And we moved them 30 feet away from the Wi-Fi, worked fine.
Interesting. So yeah, well, we should preface all of this by my mantra that RF is voodoo. Now, I'm certainly not an RF guy. I know what I need to know, but there's, especially having listened to James Staffo's webinar that's available recorded here on the practicalshow.tech website, I realized all the things I don't know. But, I have come to understand that things in RF can be very, very sticky. And as you point out, not only 20 feet, sometimes moving a transceiver 5 feet one way or another, up or down, can make a world of difference. There is a utility in the Freespeak belt pack that I hope most of you know about, which is a site survey mode, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to get to a couple other questions. First of all, to Pete's previous question about a soft reboot. So if you push in the main volume knob while you're pushing in the program audio volume knob, and also at the same time push the mode button on the left, just to the right of the headset connector. If you push all three of those in at the same time, it does a soft reboot of the base station. So that means you don't have to reach around or get into the rack and pull the power cable and plug it back in if you ever want to reboot your system. So that's a cool little hack that I think everybody should know about. I see Mark is asking a question, when using stage announce end program in as a 4-wire connection, does the program level control function? So yes, there is in the software and from the master station. There are, I think it comes in 6 dB steps, if I'm not mistaken, program audio functionality, and the same for stage announce. So yes, you have some control over those in and out ports.
I think what he was saying, does that volume control the level of your 4-wire, and that volume control does not do that. You can, in the software, plus or minus 6 dB.
Yes, not the knob.
Two things.
Right.
But the knob still is only your listen volume control.
Yeah, think of the knob
and you
as
can
like
listen to it, right?
it's like an L pad. It's just for that knob is only for your station to listen louder or softer to the program audio that's being pumped in. You don't necessarily have to associate it with the channel, okay? It's just, matter of fact, you don't associate it with the channel. You just, that's your volume for your base station. That's all that knob is. Okay, Bob asks, IBM shows notwithstanding, have there been any real world issues with 2.4 systems in Wi-Fi rich environments? Absolutely, buddy. Yeah. So Bob, I can tell you that not so much that the Freespeak system interferes with the Wi-Fi, but the Wi-Fi definitely can affect the 2.4 connectivity of the Freespeak system. What I've seen in certain arenas is they use every Wi-Fi channel and they jack it up till they turn it up to 11. It's a total spinal tap scene there. And in cases like that, it's very, very hard for the frequency hopping 2.4 to break past the noise floor that used to be a noise floor and now has become a noise wall. So yeah, the answer is yeah, absolutely, and it happens more than we like to think, but that's why we have the 1.9 system, and luckily, you know, in places where it's legal, that it's a great option. Okay, keep the questions coming, folks. All right, the transceiver connects, as we see here. The transceiver will connect. You can use that wall wart for power if you want to, or if you're within a reasonable amount of distance from the base station or the splitter that's powered, then the parasitic power that goes on the Cat5 cable will power the transceiver. If you look at that number 2, the green arrow that points down just to the right of the mode button, there are 2 LEDs that live there. Just to, yeah, right there. There are 2 LEDs that live there. One is to show that the transceiver is getting power, and one is to show that the transceiver has synced with the system. So one of the ways to tell if it's a 2.4 or 1.9 transceiver is the power button, the power LED rather, for the transceiver for a 1.9 transceiver, that power LED will be green. And for a 2.4 transceiver, the power LED will be blue. So as soon as you plug it in, you'll see either a green or a blue LED. And then after about 5 or 6 or 7 seconds, you'll start to see an amber, and it's amber in both the 2.4 and 1.9. You'll see that start to flash and then become solid. Now that solid shows that it's connected to the base station and ready to go. Also, by the way, just to the left of the Ethercon RJ45 connector that's on that transceiver is a small, it's a micro USB connector, and that you can use to upgrade with a wire. With a USB wire, you can upgrade the transceiver. However, you can upgrade the transceiver through the system also. We'll talk about that when we talk about upgrades. Just to the right of those LEDs is a mode button. And here's a really cool trick, which we mentioned just a little bit earlier, is if I push that button just before I add power and hold it while I'm adding power, I will start to see the amber LED will start to flash like a heartbeat. Blink, 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 like that. And that tells me that that transceiver is now in what we call test mode or standalone mode. Standalone mode allows me to pair 2 belt packs to that transceiver and be able to look at the metrics of the connection. And here's why it's awesome to use. You're going into a new facility or you're doing a new install, and you're not quite sure where the best place to put your transceivers to be. Now, keep in mind, when you're doing this test, you really want to have everything lit up in the room. All the Wi-Fi stuff that's going to happen, all the RF stuff that's going to happen. If it's a show that has a lighting grid, you want the lighting grid on. You want to be able to have the harshest RF environment that you're likely to encounter in the actual show. Now, once I'm in that mode and I've gone to the menu of the belt pack, System Connect to that transceiver, and it always shows up as test and a number, and that's how I select it. When I do that, I can go into my belt pack and I can go into the site survey mode and see something that looks kind of like what we're seeing in that window there where it says 105905. Those metrics there show me the connectivity that I'm having with that transceiver in this exact space that I'm standing with the belt pack. So I'm using my belt pack kind of like Spock's tricorder to look at the metrics and see what's going on. Now, what does this do? Let's say I put a transceiver in a certain position and I connect my belt packs to it. Now I look at the metrics and I see, well, okay, things are looking good, but if I move it 10 feet this way, oh, wait a minute, that's even better. I can take a little piece of chalk and mark that space on the wall and know that's where I want a transceiver. Now I can go and walk to another area where I think I want them and do the same thing. Let me take a moment.
Rob, in preparation for a sale to a large church, we did this exactly that. We went to the church and we put the belt pack out there and we plotted where the best signal was for every location where we thought we might want to put an antenna.
Very cool.
And we put them all on one drawing, and then we were able to determine that if we put an antenna at number 11, we could actually cover outside the building. We put an antenna at number 9. We were covering outside the building. I'm sorry, if we put an antenna, the gray, number 9, covered the entire parking lot from inside there. So this is a terrific tool, and you can walk it around and plug it into wall outlets. But for this survey, we had a battery which put out the proper voltage. Right. And we just taped to the back of the antenna and just walked it around.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the batteries that we use for spare laptop batteries, that 19 volt is perfect for this. Yeah. So let me explain the metrics that we're looking at there. So as you can see, we've got the left number that says antenna. If you subtract 5 from that number, you will get the antenna number that you get. This is sort of a mean joke that our engineers play on us just to keep us on our toes. So right now, I'm connected to antenna number 5. And again, if I remember on the back plane of the base station, I had 2 transceiver ports, okay, A and B, or 1 and 2 rather. So 1 has the potential, if I put a splitter into it instead of a transceiver, now I have 5 transceiver ports. So 1 is actually 1 through 5, and 2 is actually 6 through 10. So if I saw the number 11 in that window, that would tell me right away, either I'm directly connected to transceiver port number 2, or I'm connected to the splitter that's connected to that transceiver port 2 in its first slot. So that tells me what transceiver I'm looking at. So I know right away. And there you see a picture of the splitter. The Ethercon connector on the bottom left, right there, that's what I plug into the transceiver port. And then I have 5 connections that I can connect to. So let's go back to the previous slide, and then we'll go back to this and we'll talk about some cool stuff. So when I'm connected there and I look at those metrics, or wherever that was, maybe farther down, we were looking at the metrics. There we go. Thank you, sir. The next number, it's 59, that says it shows it as RSSI. That's Received Signal Strength Indicator. So 59, 60, I think it goes up to maybe 62. I've seen stuff. That's a really solid, great signal. I'm standing really near the transceiver, or I'm close to it. Once that gets down into the 30s or 20s, I'm going to start to hear degraded audio, certainly in the teens. The number to the right of that, the FER, or frame error rate, that's a number indicated that right now it shows 0. That's a number that shows me percentage of packet loss. So we want it to be 0. If you're running with the belt pack or walking very quickly, sometimes you'll see that number move. That's typically a ghost, sort of a spurious report while it's moving, because it's sort of looking around and bouncing and saying, oh, who's there, what's there, but it's really connected well. However, if you're walking slowly and you see, or standing still, and you see that number past 3 or 4, you're going to start to hear packet loss. And we all know what that sounds like. That's sort of stuttering, bad digital audio sound. So
at this point, it might be good to mention that there is a checkbox you can check in the base called audio filter. And it's not really an audio filter, but it will
audio RF. Yeah.
It'll almost eliminate those dropped packets from people running around.
Yeah.
Because it basically just fills them in with good audio, and I pretty much always leave that filter on for my shows.
I usually do too. So just a note on that, and it's a great point, that audio RF filter, and again, I don't know why the word audio is in there, it's really an RF filter. Really what it is it's additional processing. So what, and exactly as Peter said, it's going to fill in the blanks, so to speak. It will add a very small amount of additional latency and reduce the frequency response by a very tiny amount. It takes golden ears to hear the difference, to be honest with you. But there is a slight difference. However, it's definitely worth it. And the reason for that extra latency is because there's more processing going on. So it has to go through an additional processor, which of course is going to add more latency. The number, getting back to these metrics, the number on the far right, it's a quality of service number. Right now it's at 5, which is the top. Think of this number like the bars on your smartphone showing connectivity. 5 is great, 4 is pretty good, 3 is 2 is, oh my God, I better find another transceiver, and 1 is, yeah, it's, you're just about to lose, or you already have lost your signal. So that's what those metrics mean.
Let me just relate a story about when I put in a system and walk it in the arena to check out my coverage. I take one belt pack and I listen to it and I watch this screen on that belt pack, and I will see all of the antennas that belt pack can see will line up on the left-hand side by number, and the one that I'm actually connected to will be the top one. So I can then watch the level of the signal as I'm walking around and see it start to drop, go down to, and it gets down to about 30 or so, and then the belt pack will switch to another antenna and you'll see it pop to the top of the list. But the best test is while you're walking around and listening to this belt pack, take another belt pack and talk into it so you hear yourself talk from one belt pack to the other. The problem with just listening to one belt pack, unlike our old BTR system where when you talked into it, it got retransmitted, you heard yourself. If you heard yourself, everybody else heard you. In Freespeak, the side tone, because of the latency in it, the side tone is created inside the belt pack. So you probably sound fine, but it'll be dropping out to everybody else if you're down below 30. So if you do your walk test listening to the second belt pack, when it gets down to actually about 32, you'll start hearing drop out, and that's a better indication that you're out of range than just reading these numbers wholly by themselves.
Absolutely. Yep. Anybody else got any tricks they want to chime in? You can put them in our question area. We'd love to hear from them and expand on them if possible. I see Jim asked a question.
Couple, yeah.
Is there a 900 megahertz option too, or has that been discontinued? No, it has not been discontinued because it never existed. 900 megahertz we did have in the Tempest world when Clearcom was selling Tempest, sadly and very sadly. We don't do that anymore, but we still do some support for it, but we're kind of, it's been a few years now since we have stopped selling Tempest. But no, Freespeak does not have, nor does it have plans to have 900 megahertz options. There's a lot of stuff in 900 megahertz, and we're moving a little bit in a different direction. Ken asks, make sure that the LED wall is energized. Yes, absolutely. And Ken, you bring up a great point. LED walls, monitor walls, all that stuff can wreak havoc with RF. We were doing some work with Frozen before it went to Broadway when they were first trying it out in Denver. And they are very, very intense on video wall stuff. They have a big, giant high def that covers the entire stage all the way upstage. And then they have, I don't know, 6 or 12 other video walls, and all their flats had video embedded in them. And it was a very RF challenging environment. So when you're doing your site survey, you want those LED walls, monitor walls, lighting grids, everything lit up so that you can test what's going on. Very few 1.9 or 2.4 belt packs are going to get through a monitor wall. It's just a fact of life in the real world. Sook-Fung, I'm wondering if you want to talk a little bit about the GUI and share your screen. Can we get Sook-Fung to be able to share her screen? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Sook-Fung Lau. Take it away, baby.
Hey, trying to see where. Okay, show this window. All right, can everybody see
Yep.
web GUI? Okay, so this is a Freespeak base station. It's running version what we call 1.52, although the number here doesn't really tell you that. So this is basically a base that is plugged in with just one power supply, and we didn't plug in the external power supply. So you could see it here as well. Here is the local address of the base station. Of course, when you get into this address on top of your web browser when you're connected to the base Ethernet port. You have to make sure you're in your PC is on the same network as your base, as well as you'll get a login screens. I think I'm not sure what's the latest login credential, because it used to be admin. Now I think we changed it since 1st of January. So let's say if I think I'll still have it. So
I think what it is if it's leaving, if it's when it's in California, it can't have
yeah,
admin.
okay,
So the password is actually the last 4 digits of the serial number
No,
of the
it's actually,
pack.
it's not that. It's the MDNS number. It's unique identifier number. And you can find that now in the newer versions of firmware that are about to come out. You can actually find that in the menu. But for now, it's still admin. It will change though.
okay. So this is the general tab where you can change the Freespeak base name. I don't know what's the default, but anyway, here by anything that's blue, you can change. So by clicking here, you could change the name and then tick, and then you will take a new name. So let's say if you have more than one Freespeak base station in your setup, you should name them so that you know which base you are dealing with. Okay, so here is the wireless part of things. OTA is what we call over-the-air registration. You could register your Belpack without a cable, or you could plug it straight into the USB port of the base station with a micro USB to the Belpack, and then that would register the Belpack to the base as well. System OTA system ID. This is just a system identifier which tells, I think Rom could correct me if I'm wrong. It tells the base hopping pattern, because is running in either 1.9 or 2.4, and then it has a algorithm on how it should hop in that time slot. Pin is where when you register your Belpack wirelessly, you need to enter the pin of the OTA to get into the base. Otherwise, you don't want, when you're setting up a system, anybody could register into your base when you enable OTA. So let's say you go to an events where you have more than one rental company on site, and then people are registering their base as well. So it's good that they can see what base name you have that is unique to you. And then if they don't have, this is 4 zeros is the default pin. So if you have a different pin, then the other people won't accidentally get in to your base. And here it tells you what sort of battery you have. Our Freespeak Belpack, you could run it on rechargeable battery, or you could run it on double A's. Do you call it double A's there as well? So you could buy off the rack AA batteries that would run 5 to 6 hours. The rechargeable battery would run you on paper up to 16 or 18 hours. Okay, this is the audio RF filter that Pete was talking about. So I think by default it's disabled. You could enable it here. Okay. Here is just the GPIO session where Rom says you could add a GPO for two-way radios. So you set it up here. Control events is where you decide what source is coming in, which channel is coming to have an action that triggers. Okay, password, you could change your default password so no one else could log into your base. You can't change the user ID, username when you log in. You could save your file here, like what Rom was saying. You could do it from the base, or you could do it in the software. Here license code. Okay, I don't think we talk about it. So Freespeak base station comes in 2 versions. There is a Freespeak base 5, base 2-5, which only runs up to 5 belt packs. So if you have a Freespeak base 5, you can't get the 6 belt pack working on it. Your maximum number of belt packs that you can make it work on the base would be 5. And you could buy an upgrade license. So tell Clearcom your system ID, which is here, and then purchase a license to expand it to 25 belt packs, and then we'll give you a code that you could use. The code is unique to every system ID, so you can't really use it on a different base. Okay. Next. Okay.
By the way,
here,
if you change, 1 second, Sook-Fung, if you change the system ID, you're going to have to re-register your belt packs again.
okay, this is here the system ID, which is
Yeah.
different. This is the frequency ID, which is different from here, which is the hardware ID.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Okay.
you're correct. I meant the other one. If you change the one that you can change.
Yeah. So if anyone decides to change system ID, it shouldn't happen if you happen to buy 2 bases at different time, and then if it happen to be the same ID, and you definitely have to change one of your base to a different system ID. Okay. So here below the license is where we do upgrading. You could select a file. Okay. From there, I think it's available on our website. I'm not sure. Anyway, once the file is loaded, you could upgrade it. So the file normally lives on your PC. If you do it via the base, then you have to plug a USB into the base. And I think for transceiver, we are not able to upgrade via the base, which some of the software we could only do it via the CCM. Okay, before I forget, we call this CCM, Core Configuration Manager. So the software that is resides in the base, we call it CCM all the time. So I don't think it's a Clearcom term. I don't think it's widely used anywhere else. Okay, below the upgrade, we have maintenance. So you could reset your base to default. You could soft reboot the base. You could take a snapshot of your base station and then send it to us for support reviewing. They will say some log files, and then our software engineer could take a look. Okay, back to here. On the station itself, this is the hardware of the base station. So there are 4 key sets that you could see from the actual base. So these are the default setup. You could change any channel, and then it will be live changes. So if you move it back to channel 1, that will be 1. You could, the channel name I'll show you is somewhere else. You could change the key to non-latching if you don't want someone to latch onto the key. Okay, group membership. Okay, is a different, how do we put it? Group is similar to party line. Rom, are you able to explain group?
The group membership is where you select for this belt pack what group they can listen to. So
Okay.
if you put a group on another panel, nobody can hear it unless they're part of that group. So that's the first part of the group.
Yeah, so in the handouts, you'll see there's an explanation about the difference between a party line and a group. So let me just talk briefly about this. A party line is it's a space in which I I can choose to listen or to talk. I can turn the volume down. I can, if I made it a forced listen, I can use my volume control to turn it down. Or if I use dual talk and listen, and by the way, there's also explanations about the different kinds of activations. There's talk, there's listen, there's dual talk and listen, there's talk and listen. All that's explained in the handouts. Yeah, and that's where you select them. So for example, if you click on, let's say, talk only, I will only be able to talk on that channel. I can't listen. Or if I listen only, that's what I like to give to like the executives when they want to listen into the channel so they can't talk. But let's say talking to forced listen is if you think about a regular old-fashioned belt pack, wired belt pack 2-wire, my button is for talk, but my volume control is for listen. However, the talk path is always coming into the belt pack. But when I have dual talk and listen, that's a very interesting little device that allows me to use my talk button I can tap it and latch the listen and then push and hold, and I can talk and listen at the same time. As soon as I let go of that button, I'm no longer talking. I can't latch the talk, but I can only latch the listen. But if I tap it again, now I'm not listening to that party line. And that's convenient for times when I want to stop listening to a party line, but be able to re-engage the listen and have it be at the same volume. So I don't have to futz with the volume rotary encoder each time I want to listen. Now, a group is a whole different kind of a thing. So when I make my belt pack a member, for example, there I've made it, Sook-Fung has made it, now that belt pack is a member, or actually that station is a member of group number 1. So anybody who talks to group 1, if they have a talk button to the group and you only program it as a talk, you don't program the listen on a group. When that button is engaged, any base station and or belt pack role that's a member of that group, they will automatically hear whatever is said. So a belt pack role can be a member of a group, but won't have that group button on that belt pack. If they want to talk back, they either recognize the voice of the person who's talking and talk on the party line that they have that person might be listening to, or they can hit the reply key on their belt pack and talk back to the person who initiated the call. It's useful as giving an additional listen key. Let's say you want to have all the audio people on the audio group, and by the way, you can change the names of those groups if you wanted to. It's not an assignment. It's actually, if you go back to where you were, Sook-Fung, if you go
I think
to,
it's here, right? We
oh,
click
you're
the group
correct.
and then
You're
we change
correct.
it here.
Yep, you're absolutely correct. You can also change it from where you were looking at it in the groups there, but
Don't think so.
device.
Uh-huh.
Can you not change it in the station?
Nah, this is for selection.
No, you're correct. You're correct. I'm wrong. Yes, yet again, Sook-Fung wins. Okay, yeah, that's correct. So the belt pack role, let's say, can be a member of the group, but not have the group button programmed on their role, or they could have the group button programmed on their role. If they do have that button programmed on the role, whether it's the base station or the belt pack, then they can talk to the entire group. Okay, so that's the difference between the group and the party line. And again, there's an explanation in the handouts if you need a little bit more deeper dive into that. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to clarify, the dual talk and listen, I think is only available in the matrix, so we don't have a selection here.
You know what? You're correct. I'm thinking of HelixNet. I apologize.
Okay. Okay, side turn is where you hear yourself in your headphones.
I'm sorry, could you pull down that key behavior? Because I'm pretty sure dual talk and listen is available.
No, it's not.
This is very puzzling because I use it all the time on my shows.
Okay, maybe not on
On the belt pack.
yeah.
on the
Oh,
belt.
this is the base. This is the base. You're right. Okay. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's available on a belt pack, but not on the base because the base has the separate talk and listen key.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we show belt pack programming.
Okay. So here, the side tone gain, you could adjust it if you want to, but -12 is the default.
Yeah,
Okay.
a note on side tone, by the way, some people, don't want to hear their own voice in their ear when they're talking. I would say this to those people. When you have side tone, you are assured that you know when other people are hearing what you say. So it's an indication. When I hear my voice in my ear cup, I know that other people can hear what I'm saying. And it's a good way to keep from having to rewrite your resume in case you've said something that, maybe you were talking on a party line that somebody's listening to. You hear your own voice, oh, I better be careful of what I say right now. So don't turn it off. It's a good thing to have.
Okay. Headset limits, that's the headset level of your earpiece that you plug into the station. You could switch it off if you don't need any headset limits. Okay. Tracking, you could set your side tone to tracking. So if your master volume is adjusted, your side tone will be adjusted to lower as well or louder. If you could leave it as non-tracking, or you could disable your side tone totally, which ROM strongly advise against. Mic type, we have automatic mic detections, but the way it works is, if I remember correctly, is it detects a certain ohm on the headset when it's plugged in. So once you plug in an electric headset or dynamic mic headset, it will auto detect. But I believe the benchmark was based on Clearcom headsets. So if you plug in a third party headsets, you could manually select instead of leaving it on automatic if it doesn't work the correct way you wanted it.
Yeah, I always get rid of automatic and go to typically everybody's using dynamic unbalanced, and so I typically go ahead and just give it that.
Okay. Here is where you select the antenna signal, whether you plug in from RJ45 or fiber. You could do it on the base as well. So it's either or. We get a lot of questions asking whether do we do both, but no, we don't. At the same time of antenna 1 and antenna 2, that you could only select one of the connections.
Before you leave that, do you want to talk about the transceiver sync offset?
Here? Okay. So this you see 10 transceiver here, and then this is the default setup for. So the default is 0 to 69 meter. How should I best explain this? Okay, so the way we do sync offset is if transceiver 1 is on stage and transceiver 2 is maybe at the grid, but transceiver 1 to the base might be just 10 meters. Transceiver 2 to the grid might be 50 meters. No, it won't be so high, but anyway. So let's just say 50. No, let's give a higher number. Sorry, 100 meters. So where you are up in the grid, you could still see the stage. And then, so transceiver 1 and 2 might be covering similar area at some point. So when you're on stage, you could still see the grid antennas. You need to adjust this to 7, the next category that falls within your 100 meters. Okay, and so that when you're on stage, the system would give a right offset on the synchronization that the one up there has a longer cable run. And the way we calculate this is a bit tricky, I believe. There is a formula, and you could look it up on our frequently asked solution finder. If you use SFP, the calculation is not directly on Cat5 cable. You need to add a certain number of meters to your calculation. So there is a formula that is being published on our solution finder, which have we shared our solution finder page with the group? Does anybody know? So anyway, do we have clearcom? Clearcom.com. Okay, support solution finder. So this would be how to calculate deck sync. No, it's not here. Anyway, I think we could share the information after this. So basically, this offset has to be based on the calculation that was including the additional if you use a fiber connector. Okay, just put it back to default for now.
I might add, but even though it shows meters there, it's really, I usually call it bananas. It's not an accurate exact number. So if you have a 73-foot cable, you might just want to leave it at 0. I always start off at 0 and then play with my offset, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that here. Not all Cat5 cable is the same. Some have different gauge, some, the less expensive stuff, the copper might not be as pure. This is really a factor of resistance in the cabling. The deck sync works so that it's like a conductor in an orchestra. So all the transceivers are getting the exact moment they're getting that sync. Okay, now when you add a lot of length to a cable, you get like a little bit of an offset because the resistance in the cable, that sync doesn't happen at exactly the same time. So when I add length to one of the cable, I'm actually slowing all the others down so that they all come together. Kind of like tuning a room with your delays on speakers. Now, it's not only cable length that's involved here and cable quality, but let's say you have a cable run going that goes through a cable tray, and as I said before, you may have a coil of extra triacs that's lying on top of the cable that's causing induction, and that's going to add some more resistance to the movement of the deck sync across that cable. So all these factors come into play. The way you really know that your deck sync is a little bit out of whack is a belt pack won't hand off properly from one transceiver to another. Peter, in an earlier webinar, talked about a great way of testing this. When you're setting up your system, take a bunch of belt packs, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 belt packs, put them in a knapsack, throw them on your back, and then take your belt pack and listen and see. Have somebody take a look at the overview page and see all the transceivers and belt packs and which transceiver is not really getting handoffs well. So if I'm on antenna number 1 and I move over by antenna number 6 and I don't see a good handoff, that's a pretty sure indication that the deck sync to that antenna 6 is not quite in sync. So
one other little trick.
Yep.
If while you're walking with this bag of bell packs, you watch the site survey on your own belt pack, an antenna that is having trouble getting the right sync will not show up on the site survey. So you could be fairly close to an antenna and you see all the antennas on there except this particular one, which you know you're pretty close to, it should be fine. It won't show up on the site survey if the sync doesn't work. And the whole sync question is, I think, a misnomer. I think it has really nothing to do with cable length. It has to do with the timing of all the bell packs and the timing of all the signals in the bell packs. When we do the show for the Macy's Day Parade, the main show is on 34th Street, and around the block, around the corner, is the TV compound and where all the people arrive. We find that all the antennas around the corner have to be set at 1,000 meters cable length to get them to sync reliably with the ones around the corner. And now I believe that's because of the bouncing off of all the buildings, multipath that's happening. So it was really odd. We'd take a bell pack, we'd walk to the truck compound, we'd walk back to the main stage, and none of them would release from the antennas in the truck compound, even though we were on the main stage, until we made the main stage ridiculously a different timing.
So you were trying different timing to get it to work?
We couldn't get it to release. We couldn't get it to go away. And we kept increasing the cable length, the cable length, the cable length. And finally, when we got up to about 1,000 meters, which is almost the maximum length you could do, then they started handing off properly. And I can't explain why that is. We take the same exact system to our next show, which is the tree lighting at Rockefeller Center, which is all in one space. And all the bell packs had to be on the same 0 setting or they wouldn't hand off. So it's just a tool if it doesn't hand off. Now, we did get a question sort of related. Vernon Lindenberg said, yep, how could you justify whether drops are caused by multipath reflections when doing your site survey? Well, the first thing you'll notice if you have bad multipath is you can't walk very far from an antenna before it stops working. You may see on the site survey, okay, I've got a level of 40 on there. I should have good signal, but it just stops dropping off. That's the first indication that multipath is causing that. If you're not sure and you're standing still and not moving and you're still getting dropout, highly likely it's being caused by multipath.
Yeah, I think just to add, I think most of the time we tell people if your RSSI is high, like on 59, the link quality usually relates similar to the RSSI. Like if you have 51 to 59, you should get link quality of 5. But if your link quality is low and your FER rate is high, usually it means a multipath as well. So advice with Pete, wear your headsets and then get someone else or you yourself to wear another headsets on another belt pack to listen to the audio quality besides just looking at the numbers.
Now, if you're in a venue that you have good high link level and a link quality of 4 or 3, it's just barely dropping out. One thing you can try with your antennas that you have in the arena, try covering them with either some black wrap, aluminum foil, or these are pizza screens I bought, $25 for 6, and I just put them on top of the antenna, and that keeps the, oops, sorry about that, keeps the RF from the ceiling, the multipath from the ceiling, from getting into the antenna. Now, this is not a panacea. It doesn't fix everything. It just fixes minor problems with multipath.
Okay.
But I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Massimiliano asks or tells us that a customer didn't want side tone and eventually found out the only workaround was to lower the mic gain on the roll side and increase the output on the matrix side. So yeah, I guess that might be a way to work that around.
Well, isn't there a side tone setting that goes all the way to off? I think
It
there is.
should go, I believe it goes all the way off. I think you can turn it all the way off, yeah.
I believe what they were doing is they had a 2-wire interface on that channel, and it was not properly nulled.
No, right, exactly. That's a
Then
good
it will
point.
sound like side tone.
That's a good point. Yeah. So in your ports, when you connect a 2-wire, there's that nulling circuit. Every 2-wire circuit has to be nulled because 2-wire to 4-wire is a complicated little circuit. So the way you null is you make sure all paths are closed on the channel that port is associated with, both on the Freespeak side and anything on the hardwire side. And then you click that auto null, you start the auto nulling. By the way, you never want to have a 2-wire port associated with a channel if nothing is plugged into it, because it'll add some echo. So that's, I don't know if we need to go over the difference between 2-wire and 4-wire, but if anybody has that, doesn't understand that, just let us know and we'll talk about it. Obviously, in the 4-wire ports, there is no nulling because it's a simple circuit. Also, just before we continue, Sook-Fung, Abdul has said, can you please explain how we sync 2 base stations in the CCM of Freespeak II? So syncing 2 base stations has nothing to do with the CCM or the menu. All you have to do is plug the output of one base station sync to the input sync of the other base station, and it all does it for you automatically. There's nothing to do in the menu. And John Christie sent us a link to the Atlassian, which is the solution finder overview. In that, we really don't see what we were looking for before, but there's a lot of very useful information there, as with, and you can poke around in Solution Finder and find some great stuff. I'm sorry, continue, Sook-Fung.
Yeah. Okay, so we're done here. Let's go on to the next part. So you could set your base to a static IP. For us, we left it on DHCP on this particular set, or you can leave it on DHCP if you like. That's just the way you set your networks to connect to your base. And before I forget, on default is DHCP, just so that it's easier for most people to connect without setting much on their computer. Ports. This is the physical ports available at the back of the base. So 2-wire ports. So you could see that they are in pairs this way. So if I click port C, C and D is in pair. So meaning, like what Rom explained earlier, if we set things in RTS mode, both A and B would be in RTS mode, not just A. Okay. Just to prove that, if I go to B, it will be RTS. So if I put this back to ClearCom mode, A would be ClearCom as well. Okay. Power, by default is disabled. You could enable it to power a few belt packs. I think we could power quite a number of belt packs. Once you enable the power, auto nulling is automatically available. You could just press this once all your devices are connected up. You could press this once to null the system. Just a basic.
When those are in RTS mode, and you plug in an RTS cable, let's say that has 2 channels on it, it's coming from the RTS system and it's dialed up to 1/2. I think channel A from that thing comes out A, and channel 2 comes out B. Is that right?
Yeah, all that is configured in the assignments page. So yes, you're correct.
But I mean, if you plug an RTS connection on it, it will get the A channel in A and the B channel in
B. B is pin 3. That's correct.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool.
Okay. I thought we could plug RTS into bell pack into either of the port and get both. That's what I remember.
Yeah, that's correct. So
they're parallel, but the B channel comes in assignable to an assignment on the port B in assignments.
That's correct. That's correct. But the actual physical XLRs on the back plane, you could plug into the A port or the B port and it would be identical. Or you could plug into the A port and daisy chain out of the B port to in this case, because power is enabled, you could daisy chain out to a 325 belt pack. And you'll notice when power is enabled, termination is also enabled on the bottom. If you're connecting to a system that already is wet, in other words, I'm plugging into an 802 system, let's say an RTS. I want to make sure that I disable my power and also the termination is disabled. However, if I'm not getting termination from the 802 system, then I would in fact want to enable the termination, even though the power is disabled. You can only have one point of termination in any two-wire system for every channel.
Okay, let's put this back to ClearCom. Okay. Okay.
And by the way,
there's a question.
Termination points on a channel, whether it's ClearCom or RTS, you will not be able to get a proper null. You only want one point of termination on any channel of a two-wire system.
There's a question about syncing an HX frame and a Freespeak standalone base. Is there a way to do that into the Eclipse frame?
Is there a way to sync a Freespeak II and a Freespeak card?
Yeah, that's a tricky one there. Yes, you can. They're on the matrix card, the EQ card of a matrix, which is at this point has become the legacy card because we've gone to IPA cards. But on the EQ card, there is a sync in and out. So I could come out of my base station with a Cat5 cable and go into the EQ card and do the DECT sync between those two devices. Absolutely. That's a good question, Jim.
Yeah. Here. Okay. So on the, like what Rom has said earlier, if you are not using the two-wire port, just don't assign it to any channels. Okay, you could disable that. Even with the four-wire ports, if you're not using it, you could unassign it, because otherwise there might be some soft noise in the background. Okay, so this is the four-wire ports. So this is the program port. Okay, it's not assigned to any channel at the moment, but you could send it to any of the 12 channels available here. You could adjust the input gain. This is a stage announcement port. Okay, again, you could assign it to any channel if you want. And you could add a group membership. Okay, before I forget, on the four-wire port, there's one thing that we looked at, which is here, port function. By default is to matrix, so that we run a straight Cat5 cable to our matrix without pin changes. If you need to sync two Freespeak II bases together over four-wire signal, not syncing, but if you need to interface with another Freespeak II base, one of the base four-wire ports should be to matrix, the other base could be to panel, and then in that way you could still use a straight Cat5 cables.
Yeah. By the way, on page 63 of the ClearCom World Tour handout that you see, you can download over on the in your webinar page. And it'll certainly be in the link that we're going to send out to everybody once we've done with this. There'll be a Dropbox link that will have all these files, plus lots of other very cool stuff, tips and pinouts and stuff. But on that page, you'll see there's a diagram to be able to make a RJ45 to male and female XLR connectors. So you can go into your 4-wire port, and if you've designated as panel, you'll be able to connect XLRs into that adapter, so you can get into the 4-wire. And there we are.
Okay. Let me see, how did I get back? Okay, my team viewer here.
Yeah, so the blue pair would be the input, and the green pair would be the output in this particular case. But if you did it the other way around, all you have to do is go to port function and flip that. By the way, apologies, but this particular drawing was made many years ago with the old base backplane shown there. So that's okay. But it's still the same 4-wire pinout.
Interesting question about if you plug in RS703 TW bell pack in with the port set to RTS, will you get both channels working on that bell pack? Yes,
you will. And on Wednesday's webinar, when we talk about LQ, the RS703 belt pack, by the way, we'll be talking more about that on Wednesday, but the RS703 belt pack, if you slightly unscrew the screw that holds the belt clip on and twist the belt clip, you can see dip switches there, which allows you to turn the RS703 belt pack from ClearCom mode to RTS mode, in which case not only will it adapt to the RTS 2-wire system, but it will also receive the call signal on both channels. And by the way, in the 4-wire port, Sook-Fung, you might want to show, there is a drop-down menu that allows you to have the 4-wire receive the call signal. If you don't have that there, you won't be able to get call signal from any 4-wire device coming in, let's say from another matrix, to the 2-wire devices.
Okay. Yeah, the default setup is disabled, so you have to remember to enable it if you need call signals.
And the gain, by the way, the input and output gain, that's from the perspective of the port on the back of the device, on the back of the base station. So that would be, and you'll notice that on the 4-wire, we get in I think it's 3 dB steps, you get up to plus 12 or minus 12 dB of gain or attenuation. However, on the 2-wire ports, that's dramatically reduced to only 3 dB steps. Well, 1 dB steps 0 through 3 up and down. The reason for that is in the world of 2-wire, excursions are frowned upon, because as I add gain from one direction, I kind of really have to subtract it from the other to keep integrity. Also keep in mind, if you change gain on your 2-wire, after you've changed it, you have to re-null. And by the way, I'm noticing that we're sort of past our original out time, but if everybody's okay, you're welcome to stick around, and we're going to continue for another little bit.
Okay, so I'll be real quick on this. So this is the default rows that Ron was talking about. So we just put them as 1 to 25. Of course, you could change them to call, lighting, sound, video. Again, so if you change belt pack 1 to sound, do you call them audio? Yeah, audio. Okay, and then tick. So this is the audio belt pack. Okay, then you select all your key A, B, C, D, and the reply key. The reply key you could actually if you want to, you could assign some channels on it, like any channel if you do not need the reply key. Okay. Reply key is useful when you are in a group and you can reply to the person that initiate a call to the group. Here, I think we'll have dual talk and listen. Yep. So this is the key that Rom and Pete was talking about, dual talk and listen. So you could explore later. Okay, so here are just the belt pack settings that is also available on the belt pack itself. Okay. Input gain and output gain. On the belt pack, we have a line level volume. There's a local input for 3.5 mm TRS jack. So you could put in a local power. I don't know if anyone has ever used it, but basically you could put in some external audio into the belt pack locally, and that's only for that belt pack. Okay, so these are just the belt pack settings. I'm not sure. Oh, here the call alert on the belt pack. Okay, let me scroll.
That line level input on the belt packs I have used for A2s who are on the stage who have a in-ear monitor pack on the in-ear monitors. They plug their in-ear monitor receiver into the line in, and that way they can wear an intercom belt pack as well as hearing their in-ear monitor feed.
Okay. Yep. So here is the call alert functions. By default, you get a battery low level thresholds alert and nothing else. But you could also set call alert. If it's not set here, you'll not get call alert from another belt pack or from the base station. Okay, and then here is when you're out of range. Okay, there is a mic level here, like what Pete was saying. He will just set most people to dynamic, I think everyone. So if you have a global setup, you could actually select all and then make changes to everything, and then everyone will have the same setup when you select all, or you could deselect all and just on the particular belt pack that you want to adjust. Okay. One more thing, manual access here. You could limit your user menu that they can not access it at all, so they can't change anything on the belt pack itself. I've seen people doing that. You could set them to basic or advanced mode. With the normal mode, by default, you won't get the site survey on your belt pack unless you go into advanced mode. Okay. On the belt pack itself, there's a way to get into advanced mode. If you go into admin options, you could set a key, which is here. By default, it should be 1111. Of course, you could change this. This admin pin is works on the belt pack as well. So if your role has menu access that is basic or normal, and you want to go into advanced mode to look at site survey, you could enter into the admin code, and then that will enable the full menu access. Okay. What other thing?
Go back up to the menu, to the microphone, the level in and out section.
Okay.
Up a little bit further, right there. So when I mix my shows, when I mix my comm shows, I'm listening to the comm channel. I usually watch on the assignments page because there, when somebody talks, their arrow will turn green. So I'll see that if I don't recognize their voice, I'll be able to see them. I don't think we have anything set up in assignments yet, do we?
You can use the overview page also.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you see them now they're we don't have any belt packs on right now, so you don't see them. Yeah. But in that, if they're loud or soft, I use the input level control on that roles page. which is the input into the base.
Right. Everything is from the perspective of the big box.
So I will adjust their volume control for that one belt pack by changing their input gain. And these gains do go in 1 dB steps plus or minus 20 or something, 15. So you can make a huge difference in it. And it's great, particularly when you have a stage manager that talks loud during rehearsal and whispers during the show.
Yep.
Which is quite common.
Okay. Okay. Here on the assignment page, right, if you're on the site here, let me move this in. On the site here, you can see all the channel as well as the group below it. Okay. So if I'm here, I'm adjusting whatever there's, I'm looking at whatever that's on channel 1. We talk about changing channel name if you want to. So I'm leaving it as channel 1 for now. If you want to add in a 2Y port into this, so you can see that a 2Y port is always sending and receiving from here. If you want to add 4Y ports into this, you could always see that the green arrow is the listen, the red arrow is the talk. So basically the station itself is only in listen mode. It hasn't got any talk key activated. Here you could, on top here, you could look at them by row names or belt pack names or belt pack ID. Okay. Let me see. This is just the station ID, which is, we could change it. Okay. So I'm not sure if anyone looked at belt pack ID, but rows is a good option to start off. And here you could see, if you click here over here to show all connections, you could see all the channel that is being assigned. So right now I have channel 1 and 3 and group 1. So if you have more belt packs that is active, you will see them on this page. Okay, so you could view them by channels or view them by groups. On the overview page, which I haven't got any belt pack set up and transceiver, but here you see 10 of them. And then if they are 2.4, I think they show up as blue. If they are 1.9, they show up as green, or the other way around. I can't remember.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're correct. 2.4 is blue.
Okay. Here you could send a 10-character text to any of the belt pack below, or by pressing the call button, or you can send to everyone. No, I'm not sure if anyone ever use it, but you could, yeah. Shut down.
It's fun for demos, at least.
Okay. So if you have any belt pack switch on, you could see them here by the belt pack ID, the row, the status, as well as we'll get it set up the next time if we come back to this again. We'll have gain key showing all the 4 different ABCD as well as the master volume, which is a very good thing. RMK here, if you have a belt pack set up and active, you could RMK individual belt pack if you noted that anyone is off cans without switching off the mics, instead of killing everyone.
Again, reminder, RMK stands for remote mic kill. So if somebody has their channel 1 latched and they go into the bathroom, you can unlatch them.
Okay, this ID just a number that came with the belt packs. So this ID is unique hardware ID of that belt pack. So most of the time, the ID doesn't mean much to anyone other than the person who's handling the logistic of it. So we tend to look at row more when we are operating. I don't know if Pete could tell me any other use for belt pack ID besides tracking whether it's a hardware.
Yeah,
If you go over to the overview screen and on those IDs there, just click on one of those IDs. Now you see that that's the belt pack that it was originally, that was already programmed in. This particular belt pack has a fixed roll of audio. Now, when you assign a belt pack, when you register a belt pack, one of the things it asks is, what role do you want the belt pack to be? And you can scroll through the thing and you can pick one of the 25 roles that you've got set up. But once you assign that role to that belt pack, if you turn the belt pack off and then try to assign another belt pack to that role, you'll be able to do it, but the first belt pack won't be able to log on anymore. So what I usually do is, as soon as I assign a role to a belt pack, I go to this screen by clicking on the ID and assign a permanent role to that belt pack. Now it can not be assigned to any other belt pack ever again. And if you don't do this, every time they turn the belt pack on, it's going to ask you what role you want to be. Now that may be useful for somebody like a TD or somebody like that who could go between a whole bunch of different roles, but for most people it's annoying. They don't know what to do. So if you assign a permanent role, when they turn it on, it'll come up as that role.
Yeah, and the rule of thumb here regarding what you just spoke about is either give every belt pack in your system an assigned role, or give no belt packs in your system assigned roles and let them choose it. So they can pick up any belt pack and turn it into the role that they want. As soon as they choose that role, the next person who turns on their belt pack will not see the role that was chosen. They will get that same list minus the role that was chosen. The reason you don't want to mix and match is, let's say Pete takes the Pete role and assigns it permanently to his belt pack, but he turns his belt pack off because he's going to a quick meeting and they're going to come back. In the meantime, somebody else turned on their belt pack that didn't have a static role assigned to it. They selected the Pete role. Now, when Pete turns on his belt pack, that role is no longer available and his belt pack is useless.
If I've assigned a permanent role to my belt pack, that role doesn't show up for anybody, ever.
Don't believe that's true.
No,
Unless
it doesn't show up. Did not show up. I can turn my belt pack off. If I've got a permanent role assigned there, it will not show up for another belt pack.
Okay.
Well, I think I have to disagree on that, because we get a few support call. So when somebody has a fixed role, like Pete has a fixed role, and then if I turns up when Pete is not there yet, I selected Pete's role. Pete, when he comes back, he cannot get back into his role. It will just say role not available.
I have to agree with Sook-Fung here. It's been my experience.
Well, we're going to have to set up an experiment, because I don't think that's so.
Okay. Well, we'll try it out and we'll let everybody know.
Okay. Okay, so here you could try the GPIO of the base. You could just test it. You could hear the relay of the base clicking. I don't think, is there anything else that I should cover on the CCM?
No, I think we're pretty good. Obviously, if you look at the device page, you will see that this particular base station is online and it has one power supply hooked up, and you'll see just below it there's a red. That's the 24-volt connection that has not been plugged in. The reason we give you two power inputs is you could connect one with an IEC cable to one electrical circuit, and then plug the 12-volt wall wart into another electrical circuit. If you have a failure on one circuit, the other one will still always be on, and that's pretty good. There's an event log, which allows you to log certain things, and you could. By the way, when you turn your base on in the device page, it's going to ask you to sync your I think it's in the stations page. Oh, no, it's there. Yeah, you're right. It allows you to sync the time on the base station to the NTP clock on your computer. And that way the logs will show up in real time. And that's pretty important to do, because if you have something that went on and you're trying to troubleshoot it, you want to have a real time report in the log. And as you can see in that log, you can set up a historic log and be able to go back and find stuff in that time zone.
I have to check. I think we might lost the log each time we power cycle.
Yeah, well, I'm just assuming you're leaving it on all the time, but yes, you're correct.
Okay, I'm done with this. Is there any questions?
All right, Sook-Fung. Yeah, so, we still have some people on. I know we ran a little bit late, but if anybody has any other questions, we'd love to hear from you. Also, at the beginning and also before we leave, we're going to make sure you see Sook-Fung's and my email address, and you're welcome to email us with any questions anytime. Also, keep in mind that solution finder, which is definitely going to be your friend. I think that's a great first start to answer questions, or just poke around and see if you can find something that's interesting. Every once in a while I'll poke around, because all the application engineers worldwide, and we have many, we all contribute to this. So from time to time I'll just go and poke around and look and see what other people have put on, because sometimes I find some very interesting things. Obviously, the market requires different processes in the United States than it does from the EMEA or the APAC markets. And by the way, in that regard, there's another question. If one role is assigned, you can't make this role again, even if there is a BIS role. You know what BIS role means? You can use fixed roles to be sure the role is open when you connect again. Okay, well, that's, I guess, another, who wrote that one?
Looks like Arlene.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, again, I mean, the real rule of thumb here is do them all static assigned or all dynamic. That's the best way to get around any of these things.
Yeah, the default is unassigned.
Dynamic.
I mean,
Yeah.
dynamic. I think with most customer I've seen so far, they prefer a fixed role. So yeah, so just make it a habit to fix.
Yeah,
when you
and
start
of course, when you turn the belt pack on, you will see the name of that belt pack's role in the very bottom middle of the window once the OLED comes alive. But obviously, you're going to have to put a piece of tape with the name of that role on it so that you get things taken care of. All right, I think we're close to the end of our overextended webinar. Again, you can view this or the one that we did a week ago on the practicalshow.tech website. Oh, hi, I got another question before you go. Is there a way to increase time slot from the limited time slot count? Time slot. Not sure I understand what that means.
Number of belt packs.
Oh, number of belt packs. Okay. A base station can support, if it's a full-blown base station, it can support up to 25 belt packs. As Sook-Fung mentioned earlier on, there are two ways we sell this base. They're both the exact same base, but the firmware has been adjusted to be only for 5 belt packs, or you can have the full-blown one, which allows you 25 belt packs. I hope that answers your question, Jason. Also, it's been noted that Freespeak penetrates too far, which is normally a good thing, but when you are sharing a space, okay, let's see if I can expand this so I see the whole question. So if you're expanding a space with another Freespeak system from a different operator, it can pose a problem. Does the deck sync in, out, avoid this problem? And the answer is yes. However, keep in mind, in one contiguous RF space, in other words, where transceivers overlap so the belt pack can roam freely from one transceiver to another, in one contiguous RF space, you can only have 25 1.9 belt packs. Now, if both systems are using 2.4, that's a different story, because according to the laws of physics, you can have up to 40 belt packs in one contiguous RF space. So you could have 20 on one base station and 20 on another base station, and they can all live within the same contiguous RF space if they're 2.4 transceivers and belt packs. But in the
And the
world of
limitation of
1.9,
25 in 2.4 is a programmed limitation in the
that's
base.
right for each base. But when you're connecting two base stations, if you're in the deck stack where most of the listeners outside of the United States are, you can actually have the two base stations completely fill up and have
Right.
them both with 25, because the bandwidth is now 20 megahertz, which allows 50 belt packs to live within that contiguous space. But you
Now,
do need the deck sync. What?
I have often used Freespeak 1.9 with less than 25 belt packs on several different systems in the same space
Yes.
without syncing
Yes.
them.
Yes.
And what it means is the latency of your signal will go up because every system has to find an empty hole before it can transmit.
Right.
And so it's not required you use the sync.
Yes,
It just works
you're correct.
better.
It's just better. You're correct. Yep. All right. Any other questions before we tighten this up? Okay. Again, you're always welcome to email any of us, and we're happy to answer your questions. We do have a tech support line, one in the UK and a phone. I'm talking about phone lines now. One in the UK and one in the United States at California time. And all that information is on our website. And here are our email addresses. And we hope you'll use them, because we want to hear from you. I certainly would love to hear what you liked and what you felt was not so great about this webinar, so that we can improve in the future. But I thank you all very much.
And thank you guys. Ram, Sook-Fung, thank you for getting up, staying up late, getting up early. We the whole idea of this webinar series was to share this very information. Yeah, maybe it's not quite as polished as some of the TV shows you watch. Doesn't have all the beautiful graphics sometimes with the names and the crawls, and well, maybe we'll get to that at some point in the months to come. But I think this seminar, it was about sharing those best practices and kind of getting to the heart of what are the bits. Mac, you have any closing thoughts for us today? Any big things or little things that you thought of?
Mike.
Mike. And maybe we'll call it a Mac instead of a Mike.
No,
there we go.
No, I think it was really well presented, and I'm glad we were able to do this in a time schedule that a wider audience was able to participate.
Yes, absolutely. And please, I was emailing with a few folks in these time zones while this was going on, and send over ideas. I mean, we're open to anything. I think one of the things that's impressed us about the manufacturers that have joined and are joining us in the weeks to come are they're companies that are committed to knowledge transfer. They're committed to helping to train, and that, if a company's willing to do that, that's a company that we want to get behind. So we want to expose people to those. Pete, any notes from you?
Well, I wish we had another half hour, because we never really got into actually syncing belt packs and actually dealing with the controls and everything on a belt pack, with actually looking at a belt pack. So it's not 99.9% of it was covered by looking at the base, because that was the important part. And we got some great questions from people, some which I hadn't a clue needed to be asked, and they were really good, really good.
Yeah, there were some really great ones there. And to your point, Pete, we'll have a little debrief like we always do after these. And who knows, maybe we throw another overnight schedule together and it's just a belt pack conversation. We have the ability to do that. We have nothing but
Sure.
time and we're not going anywhere, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
let us know what you think.
absolutely.
Will do. And the video of this will be posted within 24 hours to our website. And along with the video will be all of these questions, 20 different questions, with a time code of approximately where the question was answered in the video. So please feel free to check back tomorrow. It'll be in there. Thank you.
Yeah, and one last closing thing. So there will be a follow-up email coming to you if you attended. And in there will be the Dropbox link in case you couldn't get it out of the chat window. And that'll get you back to all of Ram's great documentation they have on this. So that wraps us up. Thank you for joining us for this this topic and at this time. So we'll look forward to connecting with all of you on the next one. Thanks again, Ram. Thanks, Sook. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
Thanks, everybody.
So long.
Bye.